everybody, welcome back. Devin, the OG, the original Grognard, and we are back here at the gameplay table today, and what are we looking at? We are looking at dun, 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 Goblin 1982 DwarfStar Games. Now, I did kind of a quick review, overview, unboxing, whatever you want to call it, a couple months back, and I said, well, you know, I really want to play this. However, my copy is an unpunched copy, and whereas I am not a collector, I am a game player. An unpunched copy of Goblin can go for, $100. So I was kind of hemming and hawing back and forth. Should I actually punch it? Because, hey, $100 is nothing to sneeze at for an unpunched copy. Punched copy, it drops to like 40. So, then I was deciding maybe I'm going to go ahead and do this on Tabletop Simulator because there's a Tabletop Simulator mod for it. And I actually broke out the Tabletop Simulator mod and started setting it up. And a good friend of mine said, dude, wait, hang on. Don't do a thing. I can take care of this for you. And my buddy, Chris, works at a print shop, not your normal, ordinary, run-of-the-mill print shop, although I think it does it that too. He does industrial level printing. So he's got access to a whole bunch of cool printing materials and printing stuff. So he went to the DwarfStar webpage where they have free PDFs of most of the games that DwarfStar Games did back in the early 80s, available for you to download. And as long as you don't sell them, and here we go, we even have the DwarfStar distribution agreement, permission to distribute free digitized copies of DwarfStar Games, yada, yada, yada. A lot of legal ease. Yeah, as long as you don't sell it, you can download it, print it, and play it at your own leisure. And so that's what my buddy Chris did. And not only did he do this, he also printed out, let's see if I can find, he also printed out Barbarian Prince for me. Probably one of the most glorious hex crawls of all time. So let's take a look at the board real quick, just to show off the board real quick. So yeah, here's the Barbarian Prince board. Yeah, big board. Now the cool thing, what Chris did when he printed this stuff off, I mean, look how thick that he did this. He printed everything on cardstock and then glued it to foam core. I mean, this is just glorious. So these are nice, good, solid maps. He did the same thing with the Goblin maps. And for the Goblin counters, now these are slightly thicker than the actual official, but not by much. But, they are printed out. So I'm going to say this right off the bat. If you're going to run to DwarfStar and pick up these games and download them, I would recommend printing them out at 50 to 100% the normal size, because these are at the actual size they were back in the day. And I mean, these are tiny. These are less than half-inch counters. I think you would do yourself a world of good that if you were to do this, just go ahead and print them out bigger than what is already stated. Now, what he also did is he also did, all the charts and tables. So that's nice and thickly printed. I don't know if you can see it, but he also used a fiber weave paper on there. Look at that fiber weave cardstock. You can see the fiber weave in it. That is glorious. This stuff is going to hold up for a long time. We got the terrain effects chart right here. I mean, that's solid. I mean, take a look at that thickness. Just absolutely beautiful. So yeah, since he sent me along Barbarian Prince, there is a part of me that's tempted to do Barbarian Prince, a playthrough of that as well. But I also remember Barbarian Prince was brutally difficult, and I don't know if I want to put my video, my abject humiliation when the game just kicks me in the buttocks. So I'm debating on if I'm going to do Barbarian Prince. But here we are. We have Goblin. And what is Goblin? Well, Goblin is a game about goblins coming out of the mountains. And we have the mountains over here. And you can kind of see they've got these. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit. They've got these black mountain passes, or the black cave entrances. And that's where the goblins come out from. And that's where they're trying to get back to when they pillage the cities, or well, not really cities. This is medieval Europe style. So there are villages. Most of these are villages. There are a couple important locations. Twerksburg is kind of a city, and that's worth a few more points. And these tiny counters are going to be the death of me. There's the village over here, which are worth, or Lakeshore. That's a big town. And then there is the Keep right there. And I think up here, where's the Abbey at? Where's the Abbey at? That's Braxton, another bigger town. I think the Abbey's up here. Yeah, there's the Abbey right there. Let's actually try to zoom in on that so you can see. Now, I got to say, I love, and I said this before, I love the graphics of this map. There we go. There's the Abbey. I love the graphics of this map. It's all hand-drawn, and it is hella more colorful than most games of the era. I mean, you take a look at a lot of the old SPI and say Canadian game simulations and Avalon Hill games. A lot of times, aside from like, you know, the rare games of Squad Leader or Outdoor Survival, most of the games were not that colorful. Always loved DwarfStar Press games because their games were so colorful. Now, it may not have been the best graphics, but it was good enough to do the job, and it was colorful, and it was better than like Avalon Hills and SPI's, you know, 4-color, 6-color schemes that they did for so long. So what the point is, like I was saying, the goblins come out from these caves here, and their point is to go, and they are going to go and try to collect as much plunder as they can, which is represented by these bags that you get from each village, town, city, what have you. And some of them, like the ones at the Keep, are worth more plunder bags. See, there's 3 plunder bags for that one right there. And this can be played one of 2 ways. It can be played either as a raid style or as a campaign style. Now, the raid style is pretty cool because one player takes over the goblins. He goes out, does his thing, tries to score as many victory points as he can in the form of getting plunder back to the caves. And then after, you know, the quote unquote round is over, which is when either all the goblin units are dead or retreated back to their caves, then you flip the game around, and then your buddy who is playing the humans takes over the goblins, and it's basically who you play it through twice, one player playing each side to see who gets the best victory points. There's also the campaign version where you have something that the goblins have to worry about called Goblin Confidence. Let's take a look at the player aid chart right there. So you've got confidence, you've got plunder, and you've got game turns. Plunder is self-explanatory, game turn is self-explanatory, and confidence is something that the goblin player will continue playing as long as he doesn't fall to -8 confidence, and at which time the other goblins remove his head from his shoulders and another goblin king takes over. So it's played, there's a lot of rules for what happens in between rounds, what if territory or if villages were destroyed, you know, some limited rebuilding of that, you know, if units were lost, they don't all come back. So that's kind of an interesting way to do it with the campaign, with the effects of one, you know, raiding season having an effect on the next raiding season. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of show off the raid mechanics. I'm not going to get into the campaign, basically because I think it would take too long, and, you know, I don't need to do that. I think if I show up enough of the mechanics, and if you want to, you can go download the rules for free anyways, so, you know, it doesn't really matter. At the beginning of every game, be it raid or campaign, you always start off with 3 random locations that are in ruins. And basically, since they are in ruins, then there's no plunder there to be had. Plus, there's also no defending forces right there. So as we're starting off this game, Swillgate, Driftfield, and something, Sophie's Hut. Looks like that's been destroyed. There's a chart in the rule book that you roll for each location, or you roll 3 times, and that'll give you 3 different villages that are destroyed. Let's see if I can find it real quick. So right here, so raid version, you got table A, table B, and table C. You roll once on each one of those, and that'll determine which village. Oh, and like I said, you can kind of see the fiber weave in that he did for the rule book as well. So cool. So that starts off, and then every other place gets the bag of loot that is assigned to him. So there we have like turtle down. That will go in turtle down. And basically, the further away the villages and the towns and locations are, the more loot bags it's worth, just because the goblins have got to work harder to get to it. Then what you do for the setup for the humans, you've got a bunch of C-class units. The morale C right there. And give a quick breakdown of the units. Morale is in the upper left-hand corner, so these are C morale units, which are the worst. First number is missile value, second number is melee value, and third number is armor value. And that's basically all of combat. But you take one C unit, and there's a bunch of them, and place one C morale unit in every village. And then there's some leaders, the human leaders you put out, and they get put out in specific towns, plus they have a few B units that get added with them. But you have these, now they're supposed to be upside down. You have them upside down so that the goblin player doesn't know who or what is where, other than, where the major leaders are. The problem is, and this kind of a little bit irks me, is that the human player has to put these C-class units out in these villages out randomly. If I were doing it today, I would probably say, hey, the human player can place his forces, the C-class forces, in whatever villages he wants. So he can kind of build his defense how he wants to. Now, it's all random. Now, these units stay face down. The human player can look at them once they're placed, but they all stay face down until the goblin player gets into a position where the human units are released. Now, human units are only released if a goblin unit moves within 2 hexes, 3 hexes, 2 or 3 hexes. Let's take a look real quick. Because God knows I have a hard time remembering rules sometimes. The problem is I'm getting old, and I got so many rules clanking around in my head that they start to overlap with each other. Yeah, that's a problem. Of course, when I'm not on camera, I can find it right away. Movement points. Oh, come on. If I was off camera, I'd have found it already, because that's the way it always works. Record game, playing in the cycle, organization, feudal initial development, militia initial development. Okay, units are flipped face up whenever a goblin unit moves next to the inverted feudal unit, or when the feudal unit first moves. And yeah, it's let's see, where is it? I think it's 2 hexes. Annoying. Playing the cycle, record keeping, casualties. Oh well, I'm not gonna worry about it right now. We may not even get to that. So anyways, so the goblin player doesn't know what's defended where, and by the way, the rules, the human player is just kind of at the mercy of the RNG of where the units randomly go. So like I was saying, goblins start off moving first. They do their movement, and the human player can't do anything, cannot move a single unit anywhere until a goblin unit comes within, it's either 2 or 3 hexes of a feudal unit. At that point, bam, feudal forces are released. They can start moving around at will during their normal movement phase. And there's a chance, well, there's not a chance, the Baron will then appear. And the Baron is a pretty beefy unit. Just to give you a quick idea on for leaders, +2 is his morale modifier for the units under him. 12 is the number of units he can command. Oops. And 1 is his armor class. Armor class 1 is good. And then there's 2 and 3. And let's just take a look at what all these pink units right here, light red, not pink, light red, all these light red units here are the Baron's forces. And there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So he can pick up 2 more units. Movement in this game is, leaders are the only thing that can move. They just carry along the troops that are stacked with them. If a unit does not have a leader with it, it is not going to be able to move. So really the game, it all comes down to maneuvering your leaders and what's stacked with them. So he's got a command limit of 12, so he can carry 12 units with him. He's already got 10, so that means he could pick up a couple more units out on the field. But as soon as the goblins are spotted, you've got these 4 turn markers. And their activation turn +1, +2, +3, +4, and basically the feudal player pulls one of these at random and sets it down to the side, and then whatever turn that, it's like, all right, so the goblins are spotted on like turn 3, and you pull, the Baron arrives plus turn +1. Well, then they'll arrive next turn, and they can arrive from any of the map edges or any of the roads on the east map side. And there's that one, those two roads right there. And yeah, they kind of can kick butt. They've got, most of their units are A morale, which is really, really good because most Goblin units are only C's and B's. And all leaders basically work the same. Let's take a look at a Goblin Leader. Here we've got the King. Doesn't have a name, just the King. So he's kind of like the Baron. He's got +2 morale for his units under him. He can carry 12 units along with him, and he has a armor value of 1. Let's go ahead and take another look at another guy. Here we have Argab. So he's got +1 morale modifier. He can carry 3 units and has got a 2 armor class. Now the funny thing is, and I don't know how many people ever notice this, there's 6 Goblin Leaders. However, in the rule book, the names are a touch different. In the rule book, one of the goblins that they mention, I think his name is IHOP, actually isn't in the counter list, and I think Grinfar, no, it's Finlock. Finlock, I think, was supposed to be originally IHOP or whatever his name was. So there was a little discrepancy between the rule book and the counters, actually. But hey, 6 units is 6 units. There's 6 leaders said in the rulebook. There's 6 leaders provided in the game. Whatever. What difference does it make? You got all 6 of your units. Now, one thing I will point out is that you can get some really big stacks of, like, this guy can carry 12. This guy can, Marglash, he can carry 8. The stacks can get kind of big. Now, with the original counters being as thin as they were, it's probably not that big of a deal. Oops, let's go ahead and focus. However, these counters are a little bit thicker, and you can tell just right here, that's only what, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 5, and that's already kind of a really big unmanageable stack. And kind of a big unmanageable stack here as well. So basically what I decided to do is I just came up with this little sheet of paper. I just sectioned it off, put the names of the different leaders in there, and that's where I'm just going to keep the leaders off to the side. So the King, this guy right here, these are all the units that he's carrying. These are all the units that Kabosh is carrying. These are all the guys that Finiak are carrying. Grimfar, Abash, Margalash. I could do the same for these guys here, but I'm kind of running out of table space, so I'm not worried too much about it. But for the Baron, I'm just going to hold the Baron's troops off to the side, so if he shows up holding 12, plus, like I said, he's got 10 units there, he can pick up 2 more along the way. I'll just stick him off to the side here for the Baron and just move the Baron's marker. I think that'll probably make things a little bit easier, kind of like the task force markers that we saw was so famous in the Fleet Battle series. So instead of having a stack of 15 ships on the board, you just back Task Force 1, and then on the Task Force chart, you just lay out the ships as they are there. So yeah, that's most of the rules right there, or most of the basic overview. Movement is also real easy, aside from the simple fact that only leaders can move and they get to carry people along with them. Unmounted troops, which is pretty much everybody, leaders, and the Baron's troop have a couple, mounted units. All ground, or all leg, which is, like I said, virtually everybody, has 10 movement points. Mounted units, and that includes leaders, when they're mounted, have a movement of 15. Now, most of the time, the leaders are only going to be moving at their dismounted foot pace because, well, they can't drag along the rest of their infantry if they're moving along at 15, because their infantry can only move 10 hexes. Like most games, can only move at the speed of the slowest unit in the stack. And since you really don't want to be running out there with just your leader, you're going to want to move at the slower rate so you can drag your troops along with you. Combat is kind of cool. Each combat is broken down into 4 phases. Phasing sides missile, non-phasing sides missile, phasing sides melee, non-phasing sides melee. And that happens every combat. So if you were to have a combat like say right here, and a couple leaders were stacked here, and it was the goblins' turn, if the goblins wanted to attack, goblins would do all their missile fire first. And combat happens, it's not simultaneously, it is as in order. So you do the missile fire and then you resolve the effects of the missile fire. Then if there's any surviving units, feudal surviving units left, they get to do their missile fire back. Then the goblins get to do, and then combat, and then results are resolved there. And then the goblin melee happens and they resolve their effects. And then if there's any surviving feudal troops, the feudal gets to do the melee back. And really, it's kind of hard to, well, it's not, I can't say it's really kind of hard. You're not going to kill a lot of troops in this game through just sheer melee, sheer combat. Most of the time, what you're going for is to force the opponent to, well, and this is basically all what melee and ranged attack is forcing the opponent to make morale dice checks. And remember when I said that there were 3 different morale types? I did point that out right. A, B, and C. A being the best, B being moderate, and C being crappy. If a unit fails its morale test, then it has to retreat 10 hexes, or 10 movement points. Where's the 10 hexes? I think it's, let's see, leaders, let's see, retreat. Oh yeah, it's either, you either retreat 1, 2, or 3 hexes, or you rout, which is 10 hexes. So the combat results are going to, for effects, are going to be R1, R2, R3, which is retreat 1 hex, retreat 2 hexes, retreat 3 hexes, or RT, which is rout, which is 10 hexes. At the end of that retreat and that rout, then each unit that retreated and routed, you have to roll against their morale. Let me check that just to make sure. Is it the morale or their armor class? Yeah, it's armor value. A unit that, oh, that's it, if it routs. A unit that retreats need never check for casualties. A unit that routs checked its casualties at the end of the rout. Roll 1 dice. If the result is less than or equal to the router's armor value, it is lost. Each routing unit checks separately. Furthermore, for each enemy zone of control hex entered during the rout, subtract 1 from the dice roll. So the one thing that you're going to see real quick is that the Goblin forces have got lots of C's and B's. They have no A's, whereas most of the feudal units have got some C's, which is the militia and the towns, and a lot of B's and A's. So goblins are going to end up running away a lot. And that's going to kind of prove to be a problem, because if they run away, well, if you retreat, the leaders never rout. You never have to roll against the leader. But you know, if your entire stack routs away, you probably want to rout along with them, just so you can, you know, stay with them and can turn around and fight next turn. There is no rallying. When a unit routs or retreats, you know, that's it. That's done. It's automatically assumed to be back in good order as soon as that movement is done. So yeah, basically the entire game comes down to goblins coming on, raiding as much as they can, and trying to get back off again. And you know, that's where their victory points come from. So, you know, let's see, we're at 20. You know what? Let's go ahead and jump into a turn just to start this off. And so I actually think that Chris actually 3D printed. He's got a kickin' 3D printer. It's a resin printer. So I think I should probably show off. He also sent me some miniatures. Well, I can't reach over the table while we're here. But let's go ahead and take a look. Oh, those are some beautiful resin miniatures over there. Let's zoom in a little bit, see if we can get a good look at them. And there are the 2 barbarians he sent me. Big ass barbarian with a huge flag. That was all one printing. And that's pretty impressive. And then of course he's got, you know, I call her the booty barbarian next to him, booty barbarian princess. And he knows my love of BattleTech. So he got some resin prints from some BattleTech mechs. There's the Stalker right there, then the Locust, the Archer, and the Rifleman. Didn't send me the Warhammer. I think he's still working on getting me the Warhammer. So some of my favorite, most iconic mechs from BattleTech, but those are like 3 inches big, which is about, you know, 75% bigger than Cataclysm Games. Cataclysm Games, if you're listening, your miniatures for Battletech are too small. They should be huge. These are 3-inch miniatures. Well, actually, they're more than 3-inch miniatures, because I think that's a 3-inch box for Bombing the Reich. Or Wing and a Prayer right behind him. So anyways, kick-ass resin printer. So he printed me out some cubes to go along with it. Well, now we're not going to be paying attention to confidence because we're not playing the campaign game. So really, it's just game turn and plunder that we worry about. Now, when you start off with the Goblin forces, you remove a certain number of goblins randomly from the pool. So it says you're supposed to remove 8, but taking a look at it and assigning all the goblins to the leaders at max level, there were still like 6 units I think I had left over. 1, 2, 3, yeah, I had like 6 units that weren't supposed to go anywhere. So it says remove 8, but I ended up having to remove 14. So I don't know if I'm supposed to have those extra 6 in there and just decide if I want to include them and then remove the 6, or if I'm actually supposed to remove 14. Again, 1982, editing was not the strongest suit of a lot of game companies back then. Also, for the feudal player, there's a couple leaders that they just don't give any information on whatsoever what to do with them. Those 2 leaders, I have no, there's no setup for them. They're not even mentioned in there. I know because I looked. I went into the PDF and I did a word search for them. They're not in there anywhere. Also, there are 3 A-class units for the feudal player that also are not listed anywhere in any setup. They're not part of the Baron's forces. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know what I'm supposed to do with them. So, you know, there's always the possibility that it was something that was intended to be put in, but was never actually implemented. So, yeah, whatever, what have you. So, what are we going to do? Oh, so we got my Goblin Leaders, and I've kind of broken them up into 2 separate groups. My Big Passel, my 12 guy, my 8 guy, and my 8 guy. And then the 3, 5, 3 guys down here. The plan is, what I will do with this small group down here, they're going to kind of operate as one big mob. Big old mob of boys. Actually, that would be more orcs. Goblin boys. They're going to come on from the south, and they're going to try to hit these more underdeveloped and less protected areas down here. The King, Murglash, and Kerbach, I'm gonna have them go up north and rampage north, and I'm probably not gonna go for Lakeshore or the Keep, but I will go for Tewkesbury, and I will try to get the Abbey over there. Now, a lot of that. Oh, gonna sneeze. Oh, don't you hate it when you get a sneeze right on the edges? You're gonna sneeze, but you don't. So a lot of that's going to depend on when the Baron shows up. Now, since I'm kind of playing this solo, what I'm going to do is every turn, after the goblins are spotted, I'm going to draw one of the tokens, and if it is a Baron arrives +1, then the goblins are going to, or then the Baron is going to show up. If it's a +2 or +3 or +4, I'm going to put it to the side. Turn after that, I'm going to draw next to it. Eventually, I'm going to get the +1. So that'll kind of give the variation and the randomness on when the Goblin player not knowing when the Baron is going to be showing up. Because Baron, huge, massive force. They're all A's, and they're all beefy in their melee, and they're all beefy in their ranged, and they're going to hurt the Goblins very, very badly. So there's that. So yeah, it's going to be, so the feudal player is not going to be able to move until any goblin comes within 2 hexes. Doesn't have to be line of sight. There is no line of sight in this game. It just comes within 2 hexes. So that kind of gives the goblins a lot of freedom to be able to set up their first initial attacks as long as they move their guys and stay away from stay more than 2 hexes. 3 hexes or more away from the villages. So that's what we're gonna look at. Really the Goblin player has there is no set, okay, 10 turns, 20 turns in a phase, whatever. Now that does say 20 turns, and honestly, I don't think many games are gonna go beyond that, but the goblins do have the flexibility to kind of choose and pick where their initial battles are going to be. So let's go ahead and get into this. We're going to start off turn 1, Goblin Slayer. Take a quick look at the game turns. So basically, Goblin movement phase. Each Goblin player may move carrying Goblin fighting units along with them desired by the Goblin player. If the Goblin player moves Splinter into a cave during a movement, immediately determines its value with appropriate changes in confidence level in the campaign game. We're not doing the campaign game. Then Goblin combat phase. It's feudal missile attacks. So defender gets to fire first. Then Goblin missile attacks. Then Goblin melee. Then feudal melee. And then it switches over to the feudal movement phase, which is each feudal unit stacked with the leader may be moved. Then the feudal combat phase, Goblin missile, feudal melee, Goblin melee, and then game turn phase. So pretty easy movement turn structure. Can't really complain too much about that. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's take a quick look at the movement effects chart just so we know. Open terrain. Movement costs infantry 2 in open terrain. That doesn't seem right. Mounted. Let me check the rule book on that. That might be, again, remember when I was mentioning editing? Let's see. Cave, fields, fjord, forest. Okay, yeah, see, right here. Open terrain costs 1 movement for anyone to enter represents clear open countryside. So, right off the bat, that movement cost is wrong for that. Fields 1, open woods, forest, rolling hills, hills with open woods, mountains, not applicable, nobody can move into them. Caves, stream hexsides, river, lake hexsides, no one can cross. Fjord, no, that's only in Scandinavia. Ford on a river, bridge, hamlet, village, town, abbey, keep, ruins, road. Now the cool thing, one thing about roads are, and again, movement point cost mounted is half, and it says 1 for the road. Again, that's a mistake from what's in the rule book, because in the rule book for roads, it says if a unit that travels along a road from one hex to another may use a special road movement rate. A unit can transfer from one road to another only if the hex intersects in the hex. Mounted units spend 1/2, all others spend 1. Okay, so it's not incorrect. Okay, I thought everybody could move at half, but evidently it's only mounted units. All right, so that's a quick look at the rules or the movement. Again, and there are combat results effects on attack routes, so there's a chart inside the rule book to help you out with that as well. We'll worry about that when we get to combat. So let's go ahead and start here. Now it doesn't say that the goblins have to come out from a different hex. And if I wanted to, I could have these guys stacked. Now the problem with that is if they're stacked, only one leader takes precedent, and that's the best leader in the stack. So if I were to have these two guys stacked together, Finnock and Grimfar, I wouldn't have a stacking value of 8. I'd only have a stacking value of 5. So that right there is one of the reasons why you're not really going to stack your units. So let's go ahead and start off by moving my weak guys first, like Arghag. Let's him come out from here. So 1 movement point. We're going to say, it doesn't exactly say if it costs 1 movement point to enter from off board or we just pay the 1 movement point. I'm going to assume we pay the 1 movement point when we move on. So again, I've got 10 movement points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is a light woods hex or open woods. And open woods is 1 movement point for infantry. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We want to stop right there because we don't want to get within 2 hexes of south down to alert the feudal forces. So he's going to be done. Let's go ahead and take the next guy. We're going to enter him here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a forest. Let's take a look at what the forests are. Forest is 3 movement points. So what do we move over? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's fine. He's still not within 2 hexes of the hamlet. And then we'll take Finlock, and he'll come out through here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see what it takes to move into a hills with open Hills with open woods is 2. So we've what did I say? 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rolling open woods is 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so they're in position. Next turn, they're going to move on south down, and we're going to probably going to butcher the troops in south down. So let's take a look at what we got up north. Now, we don't want to have these guys near each other. So let's start off with Marglash, and let's send him, I think we'll send Marglash and Cashbach. They're going to go after Turtle Down first, and then go after Torxberry. So let's go ahead and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keep it 2 hexes away from. Oh, nope. We don't want to go there. We want to go there. Moving there would put it in the feudal's range of 2 hexes. So we're just going to leave him right there. And let's bring Kabash on. So he'll come in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll leave him there because that keeps him outside the 2x range. And then the king, whatever. King's gonna come out here, and he's gonna beeline for the Abbey, I think. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then an open woods is 1, so 9. Okay, now one thing I will point out, there are no mounted units on the Goblin side, period. None whatsoever. The only mounted units are feudal leaders and the couple of cavalry units that the Baron has. All right, so that's basically the end of the movement. I have no attacks to do because I'm not next to, and you can only, and that's one thing I probably should have mentioned. All attacks are or adjacent hexes. You can't do range from multiple hexes away. So basically, that's going to be the end of the movement. We've got no combat. And it flips over to the feudal turn, and the feudal player has no movement because I haven't moved within any line, or not line of sight, but I haven't moved within 2 hexes of a orcs haven't moved within 2 hexes of feudal. So they've got no movement, they've got no combat. Bam! Wow, look at that. I could have probably knocked first turn out in less than a minute. So let's go ahead and move the turn cube up to turn 1, and we go back, and now let's just go ahead and start up north since we're already pointed there. So it returns movement phase again. So 1, 2, and fields are 1 point. So we're going to go 3. We kind of want to, let's see, 1, 2, 3. And if you really want to ensure that you're forcing your opponent to make multiple dice rolls for survival, you don't want to try to have them retreat through zones of control. So let's go 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right there. So basically, when we do the attack here, when these guys retreat, they're going to have to move through an enemy zone of control. So we're good with that. And then down south, let's go ahead and go. Let's see, woods is what, 3? Oh, I can't even see woods on here. Take a look at it closer. Oh, forest. Yeah, forest is 3. I was looking for the word woods. 3, 6, 9, and 10. And we'll move this guy here. Whoops. I don't know what. It helps if they're actually in the right hex. Well, regardless. I'm going to get our guys right there. And that's how they're going to be set up for the attack. All right, so that's the end of the movement phase. Now goes into combat phase. And, well, obviously, since we're adjacent to these guys, let's go ahead and flip these guys over. We got a 2, 2, 3, which is, and then we've got, oh, these guys are a little bit better. They're a 3, 3, 3. And what do we have? Way up north. We've got a 2, 3, 3. Okay, so not really great units, but, they're town militia. So let's start down here. Again, as a review, first number is the melee, or the range number. Second number is the melee number. Third number is the armor number. So, again, looking back at our turn order sequence chart for combat, it's the Goblin turn. So, as part of the Goblin turn, Feudal Missile, then Goblin Missile. So, okay, let's take a look at Feudal Missile first. How much have we got? We got 2 points. All right, so I'm being attacked from 3 different directions. This actually will allow you, the rules in it allow you to split up your range units, fire however you want. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just take the 2 units and drop them on the Finlock's troops. All right, so how does melee, or how does range work, dude? Missile combat table. You total up the total number of fire or missile value that you have, and that's what you're going to be rolling off of. Now, I know this goes up to 8, but you actually use a 6-sided dice, and there are modifiers depending on what the person is, or the terrain that you're firing into. And that's actually, it's on the terrain effects chart, but there's also this handy chart right here. Missile firing, the terrain modifiers, and we're going to be firing at troops in the, oops, let's go ahead and break it down so people can see it. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. So they're going to be firing into a clear hex. Well, it's a road hex, but it's a clear hex. Let's see. Target is an open. Nope. Target hex is rolling hills with open woods. Ruins, forest, hamlet, keep. No modifiers. It's just open. So, no dice roll modifier. Again, we take a look at we're on the 2 column. So basically I need a 1 or a 2. And a 1 or a 2, if you take a look at this, whatever result you roll will determine which armor values you have to check morale for. So at best, if I roll a 1 or a 2, then I'm going to be checking all units that have an armor value of 3 in that hex. For their morale. Now, granted, these guys are goblins. Most of their armor's values are 2s or 3s anyway. So, there's a chance of me doing something. But I still need, since I've only got 2 firepower, I need a 1 or 2. That's basically what it comes down to. I pulled out one of my green dice because goblins are green. We rolled a 6, no effect. All right, so no effect with my measly archer. And again, you have feudal militia units. They're probably not going to do a lot anyways. Now we look at Finlock, Arghab, and Grimfear, and we get to add up all of their missile values. So my horrible handwriting, we got Arghab. So we've got 3, 6, 9. He's a missile-heavy unit. That's nice. And then Finnock is, okay, now, we'll sometimes have a unit, come on, focus. There we go. That doesn't have a value in that stat. So this has got a circle there that means they have no missile value. So they're not going to add any missile value into the attack. But we've got 9. Oh, that entire stack has no missile. So we've got 9 still. And then Grimfear has got 12, 15, 18. So he's got 18 missile value. And let's take a look. So we're going to be on the 18 value chart, which is right here, which is, pretty good. But let's go ahead and take a look at the target, where they're at. Get the camera zoomed back. And they are in, that looks like a hamlet. Hamlet, village, town, abbey. It's all the same. And the chart inside the rulebook, I could look at the melee chart or the actual terrain effects chart, but I'll just look in the rulebook because it's laid out better. +2 if the target hex is hamlet, village, town, or abbey. Alrighty, so we've got the 18 chart that we're rolling on, but we have to add +2 to the dice roll, and then that'll determine which armor values we're going to affect. Now, if you take a look, their armor value is a 3, so pretty much anything we roll is going to affect them, unless we roll a 6, in which case the end result will be an 8, and that's going to be a no effect on a 16 to 18. But let's go ahead. And we rolled a 3, add 2 to that is a 5. On the 16 to 18 column, and it's going to be all morale. Let's see, all armor 2s or 3s are going to have to be checked for morale. And their armor value is a 3. All right, cool. So we are definitely going to have to check them for morale. Now, what does that mean? Well, let's take a look at the morale table right here on the chart. So the morale class is a C. And so basically we roll a 6-sided dice and we cross-reference, and that'll tell us what the result is. So let's go ahead. And you roll this for each unit that has to be affected. So if there were 4 units that had armor class 3 in there, do we roll for each one? Oh no, we do it by armor class. So if you had a C armor class, a C morale, and a B morale. No, armor class. If we had a 3 armor class and a 2 armor class, you'd roll for the effects for all the 3 armor class units. Then you would roll the effects for all the 2 armor class units. So there are no modifiers to that. I have no leader there, so there are no leaders to give any modifiers. And what do we get? We got a 1. That's not good. So we roll a 1 with the C morale is a rout. Okay, now that is 10 hexes I have to move. Now, there are some rules governing where you retreat to. And let's take a quick look at that. Okay, so basically you have to route towards safety. Safety for feudal units is nearest hamlet, village, town, abbey, keep, or feudal leader which has no goblin in or next to it. Runes do not count as safety. Now, exactly, let's see, so I have to move towards safety. The path chosen must be as such that the distance in hexes to safety grows less as quickly as possible. The path can avoid impassable terrain and enemy-occupied hexes, but does not avoid enemy zones of control, friendly occupied hexes, or any sort of passable terrain. The need to move closer to safety will prevent a retreating unit or routing from entering the same hex more than once, yada, yada, yada. All right, so basically I got to move 10 hexes, and I got to move in such a way to close my distance to safety and increase my distance from the bad guys. So basically, okay, we're going to have to leave the plunder behind. So he's got to move 10 hexes. So it's got to be 1 and 2 right there. That has got to be the first 2 movement points that we do. Now we got to figure out, looks like, yeah, Dunsworth is the closest to safety that we can get. Unfortunately, so far I've passed through 2 enemy zone of control. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's their movement. Do I have to, let's see, I think I can stop when I move into a safety hex. Retreats and routes must be towards safety. When retreating or routing, units reach safety, it immediately halts. There you go. All right, so they managed to go ahead and skedaddle their way out of Dodge City because of all the missile fire that the goblins put up on their poor little heads. However, since they did roll a route, at the end of the route, we're going to have to roll to see if they survive. And that's going to be based off of their, is it morale or armor? I believe it's morale. A unit that routes must check for casualties at the end of the route. Roll 1 dice. If the result is less than or equal to the router's armor value, it is lost. Okay, and check each routing unit separately. Furthermore, each enemy zone of control the hex entered during a route, subtract 1 from the dice roll. All right, so it is armor. Their armor is 3. I need to roll a 3 or less. However, I have to subtract 2 to the dice roll because I moved through 2 zones of control. So basically a 6 is going to keep them safe. And it's a 3. Minus 2 is a 1. Less than their armor class. C unit is destroyed. Again, not a big surprise, just a militia unit. Now, what happens is that the attacker, since they cleared the hex, can actually move in and occupy the hex, which they're going to do. And we're going to move Finlock in here, and he is going to grab the Southdown loot. Now, what you have to do is a goblin unit has to carry this. So we're just going to go ahead and look at what Finlock's got. He's got, everything's morale 3 or armor 3 and morale C. So it really doesn't matter who we give it to. So we're going to have to go ahead and give it to one of them. Just stack it underneath him. That unit is now carrying that loot. Now, if I wanted to, I could take Finlock and his entire stack, move him back to a mountain hex or a cave entrance, move them off, and I'd be able to score those victory points. But I don't think we're quite done raiding yet. There's still lots of juicy plunder out there. So there you go. All right, so that was that melee. So let's go to this melee here. Let's go ahead and zoom in. And the feudal ranged, or the feudal, feudal missile fire goes off first. So they've got a value of 3, which is, again, the lowest possible you can get. So I need a 1 or a 2. Let's see. We've got units in fields and units in fields. What's the morale modifier for fields, or the range modifier for fields? Take a quick look at the terrain effects chart. Fields, -1 melee for mounted troops attacking in this terrain. Well, that's just because we know that the terrain effects chart can be a little bit wrong. Let's take a look at what the manual says, because I'm going to tend to believe the manual. Okay, missile fire, target is woods, rolling hills. Okay, yeah, field. No fields, no modifiers for that. All right, so I need a 1 or a 2 to actually have an effect. And who am I going to attack? They're both the same, Murglash and Kurbach. But let's take a look at Murglash and Kurbach, their forces. Let's see. He's only got like 3 guys up here that can melee fire. And he's only got a couple guys. Okay, so we're going to fire at Kibosh, because Kibosh has got more troops in it. Oh, that's not going to do any good. Their armor's a 2. Their entire formation is 2, except for, okay, no, we're going to have to fire at Murglash, because the best result I can get is an effect on a 3 morale. So roll the dice, reroll to 6, nothing. So no effect. So the goblins get to fire back. Let's go ahead and tally up the goblin fire real quick. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 13. 13. Okay, so we're going to be rolling on the 13 column. And as we already know, we're attacking into a hamlet. It's going to be +2 to the dice roll. So we're going to have to take a look at it. We're going to have to add +2 to the dice roll. And that is a 3 plus a 2 is going to be a 5, which is going to be checking all armor 3 units. All right, so we've got 1 armor 3 unit in there. We have to roll his morale. Come here, dice, big fat fingers, tiny small dice tower. 4. So on the morale table, we roll a 4. C armor, or C morale, is a retreat 3. All right, well, it's a retreat, which is better than a rout, because at least now they won't be killed. So let's go ahead and we're going to go 1. And this is just straight up hexes. You don't have to worry about movement points. It's just straight up hexes. So we're going to 1, 2, 3. That is moving towards safety and away from the goblins. And let's see. Oh, what leader have we got here? That is Sir Thomas Bruce. And he's got a command limit of 4. So he can carry 4 troops. So he's got 3 troops that he's stacked with already, but we're probably going to want to leave someone behind. So yeah, he will probably pick up that feudal unit right there. But, however, as before, we cleared the hex, so somebody gets to move in with it, and I think we'll go ahead and take Murgash. He's going to move into it. Who do we want to give it to? Let's give it to someone who's got a pretty good armor value, like an armor value of 2. So it lessens the chances of them running. So we got that right there. Then let's go ahead and do this melee value up here. Again, it's our melee value of 2, so only a 1 or 2 is going to affect. Firing into fields, there's no effect on firing into fields, so no dice roll. Come on, give us something. 3, nothing. All right, so no effect there. The king, his troops are going to go ahead and fire back. And let's count. Oh, I don't think I have. No, they have no missile fire. That may not have been a very smart idea on mine. So the goblins do not get to missile fire back, which is bad. Well, not really that bad, because now we go into melee. We haven't done melee yet. So I guess that is a good thing that they don't have any missile fire. So basically with melee, you add up all the melee value of the troops involved in the attack. And so we got 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. So we got 42 attack value. And against a defensive value of 3. 12 to 1? Yeah, 12 to 1 odds. Actually, it doesn't work that way. So you take so you take attacker's melee value, which is 29 plus. So we're looking at 29 plus versus a 3. So basically, we're rolling at an 8 negative. Well, what does that mean? Basically, we roll a d6. Let's go pull out the rules just so I'm completely 100% clear procedurally how this is done. Map edges, goblin caves, movement, combat. There we go. Fire and procedure melee. Melee procedure. To resolve a melee combat, the attacker adds up his total melee combat values of all units attacking the target hex and compares them with the total melee within the target. The two totals are cross-referenced on the melee combat table. Note that no dice rolls are used for this cross-reference, just one total versus another total. A result of 1 through 8 indicates the attacker rolls a single dice. If the roll is less than or equal to the result number on the table, all enemy units in the target hex must check morale. If the roll is higher than the number, there is no effect. However, we do have melee terrain effect charts, and we are attacking into Hamlet, Village, Town, or Abbey, which is +2 to the dice roll. Well, just because I have so much overwhelming melee, and, well, again, it was 29 to 3, which is an 8 or less. So I need to roll an 8 or less on a 6-sided dice, even adding 2 to the dice roll because we're attacking into a Hamlet. It's going to be a morale check regardless. There's nothing I can do to prevent that. So we take a morale test of morale check against a unit C morale. It is a 1. That's not good. We've seen this before. Morale test, dice roll a 1 against a C is a rout. So it's got to move 10 hexes towards safety, and I think that it would be best to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it'll get to there. Now we have to roll, since it was a rout, we have to roll to see if they survive. Again, roll against their armor class. If you roll equal to their armor class or lower, then they're destroyed. So we're looking at a 3 or less, but I didn't retreat through any enemy zones of control this time, so it's going to be a 1, 2, or 3, and they're destroyed. There are 4. Woohoo! So they survive. And that is probably the best news I've had all game. All right, so since the attacker cleared the hex, they get to move in. We capture Ashdown. And let's go ahead and give it to the armor class 1 guy that the king has. Let's give it to the 4-1. So give it to the unit least likely to have to take a morale test and run away. All right, so that was basically the end of the goblin's turn. Now it's the human's turn. All right, so I'm not going to pull the Baron yet because the Baron can only appear at least 1 turn after the orcs have shown up. So starting next turn, I'll start pulling chits to see when the Baron shows up. So now it's the human's turn. And you know what? Just because, since I'm playing against myself now, and I know as the feudal player, I know what all the units are. I'm just going to go ahead and flip over all the feudal units, so I know what's out there. And this may take me a little bit to do. Good tiny, tiny, tiny counters, and really, really big fat fingers. Why does he not have? He should have somebody with him. So let me go ahead and randomly draw a C unit in the Abbey. And we got a 4 missile unit there. So there we go. Now they're going to have a little bit of a missile bite. That's very good. Of course, they're facing off against 12 units that the king has. Let's see. Flip these guys. Yeah, so we got a C unit. We'll probably hang that unit back just to defend. He's got no morale either. That's not good. Let's see what's in the keep. Some pretty beefy missile units in the keep, or in the lakeshore. All right. And then what do we got here? We got a 4, a 4. Ooh. He's got a somewhat respectable melee or missile group. And then we've got Sir Godfrey and the Count. And these have got some A units here. So, and you can tell that they're in the keep because they have KP. And there's an actual melee unit there too. Or a horse unit, cavalry unit. Unfortunately, only 4 points of missile. 5 and 8. Okay, so now it's going into the human movement turn. And what I think we're going to do is we're going to take the count first off. Well, no, let's go ahead and start at the front and move. Again, we can only move leaders, so let's go ahead and take this stack. You know what? Let's leave a unit behind. We don't want the goblins getting around behind us. We'll go here, pick up that unit. So 1, 2. They're in the villa, they're in the fields. Units in the fields will be easier to attack, so let's move along the river into there. What do we have up here? We have Friar Simon with command rating of 5, so I think we'll grab the missile unit and we'll drag it along. So we're going to leave the keep or the abbey undefended. But there's only one goblin unit up here. I think we can maneuver to try to stop them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's just hold a defensive position there. Got no leaders down here. We got Robert Keith here. So let's leave 1 unit behind. Yeah, and let's just take these 2 guys and see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, well, that's nice. Got them all the way up there like that. Make sure fields, open woods is 1, and fields is 1 movement point. All right, so he can get there just fine. So that gives us a good defensive Dunsworth. Although facing off against, 5, 8, 11 goblins might not be the best thing in the world. So Sir Godfrey, he's going to stay behind, and we're going to take the count. Let's leave, no, let's not leave any units behind. Let's take everybody. Let's leave Sir Godfrey behind. And let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh. No, we want to get north of the river. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Could not get up there to be able to join in the combat. That's fine. Oh, well, you know what? Let's take Sir Godfrey. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's put him right there just in case we need to pull him down. And then, who's this? John, what's his face? John Gordon. Let's go ahead and grab all the units. He's going to move around 1, 2, and 3, and then move into the keep. And if, we'll see any goblins that are coming, and if we have to, we can move back. But I think we'd be safe right there. Actually, now because the goblins can come down this road, across this river right here. I could go. You know what? No. Let's not second guess ourselves. Let's keep it there. So I think that's where that's going to be everybody's movement. All right. So combat. We've only got one combat, and it's right there. Thomas Bruce against Kerbosh. So it is the feudal player and the feudal player in the feudal player phase. The turn sequence is Goblin Missile, then Feudal Missile. So we're attacking Kerbosh, and let me take a look at Kerbosh or Kazbosh. 3, 6, 9, 9. He's got 9 missile value. All right, and he's firing into Lightwoods. Open woods, +1 missile or melee if target is in this terrain. All right, so it's going to be +1 to the dice roll. And 5 + 1 is a 6 is a whiff. So the goblins, error boys, don't do anything. And then that means Thomas the Bruce's missile guys. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Firing into the fields, no modifier. Two, and a 2 on the 10 to 12. See if I can get this without, oh, there we go. Is a morale check on all armor class 2 units or better. And well, seeing how that's pretty much the entire Goblin force, because they have no, they've only got like 1 or 2 guys that are armor A. Let's go ahead and put these guys back in here. So let's take a look at Kibosh. And it's broken down by morale. So basically everything he's got is armor class 2 or 3. So everything's going to have to check. So he's got C's and B's. So you check for each morale separately. Okay, so C's got a 5. And we take a look at the morale table. 5 on a C is a route 2. And let's see what the B's get. Is a 3. And B's on a 3 is a complete route. So the B's, we're going to have to remove the B units from there. And they're going to do a complete route. And they move 10 hexes, and they're going to have to move 10 hexes back towards a cave. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so they stop there. Now, since it's a route, I have to roll individually for each one of them. And the C's are only going to have to do a retreat 2. So let's go ahead and do the C's to there. And I think what I want to do is have Kerbosh or Kazbosh get carried along with the guys that routed so he can give his morale modifier to them. So yeah, now we have to roll for destruction on each one of those. It goes against their armor class, which is a 2. However, we do have a +1 morale modifier on the leader. So basically I get to roll 4 dice. I probably should have pulled multiple dice, and anything on a 1 will kill something. So since they're all, they're all the same. I'm just going to roll 4 times, and any one will up. Like I was saying, that's 1 unit destroyed. 2 is good. 3 is good. And 4 is good. So 1 unit's destroyed. Basically, they're all the same. We'll just go ahead and take that, put them into the dead pile. And the other 3 are stacked with the leader, which, you know, it could have turned out a lot worse, because had the leader not been there, it'd have been a 1 or a 2. I think I rolled a 3, 4, 3. So, you know, probably wouldn't have made that much of a difference. But so he's back there. And so basically what next movement is he can do is he'll come run and pick up these guys. All right, so basically there's no enemy units there, so they can't melee back. And do I want to advance? No, I think what I want to do is I want to hold right here in the light woods. So instead of advancing into the hex, we're just going to hold there in the light woods. And that's all the attacks we have. And this has been well over an hour. My own fault, really. But I think we're going to go ahead and cut it here. And we'll go ahead and continue gameplay later. You know what's coming. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms in the comment section below. I'll talk to everybody later. See ya.